Hello class and welcome to today's lesson on analyzing poetry. Today what we're going to learn is we're going to learn how to analyze poetry and the ways to go about that and the steps to go through. And then you're going to watch a separate video of me analyzing a piece of poetry and walking through it with you so you can be analyzing poetry right on next to me and really get some direction when doing it. And then we're going to do some activities to see if you grasp that knowledge and that understanding of these steps that you go about. And then finally, you're going to analyze your own piece of poetry and really show me what you've learned. So first what I want to talk about is I want to talk about why. Why do we analyze poetry and what's so important about it? And well, the greatest thing I found is poetry expands our thinking and it challenges the minds and emotions of its readers. And there is so much we can learn from past poetry. And one of the greatest writers of all time, Shakespeare, wrote many pieces of poetry in his sonnets. And those are great things to learn from, especially like historically and throughout our literary process. And so I love this little quote that I found from Robert Frost. It says, "Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and when a thought has found its words." And so poetry is really digging into that very core of us as humans. And even as little infants, when you hear toddlers talking, they love to rhyme things. Even if they don't understand what words mean, they just instinctually like to go to that. And music and the beats that go with music, and music is just poetry with instrumentals. And so that's going to be something that we can gain so much knowledge from and really expand our critical thinking minds and our analytical side to really dig deep. And as much as that sounds scary, I know it does, but look, when we break it down, we're going to break it down, and we're going to break it down into some parts. And that is going to make it actually quite simple. And that's going to allow us to have a lot of fun with really digging deep and trying to figure out what our authors are saying. So we're going to break it down into just a few simple steps to summarize the characters and settings, structure, tone, and imagery, and then the thesis. And then we're going to compile all that information into a thesis. So first, what we're going to start with is we're going to start with summarizing. First things first, look at the title. What does the title say to you? Can you guess what the poem's trying to say before you even read it? Because there can be so much information just alone in that title. Or does the title seem really vague? Does it have even, sometimes the title even has some figurative language in it. And first look at that, see what that has to say, and then go through and read the whole thing and highlight any clues to have an understanding of what is happening. What's just like your overall guess at like what is going on, because this is more like the literal side. So like the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. It's about a man who was hunted by a raven in the memory of the woman he loved. So that has some figurative language in it, but reading through it, you kind of understand that's what he's talking about. But as we're going to dig deeper is when we're really going to find what they're trying to say on a deeper level. And then next, we're going to go on to the characters and the settings. First, identify who's the main character. Who is talking to us? Because a lot of times it's not the author. The author is telling a story about somebody else, about something else. Can you figure out who the main character is? Do you have no idea? If you have no idea, keep reading, keep underlining and finding things that maybe might give you some clues to it. And if you can't, then also think about the audience. Who, even if you don't know who is speaking, who are they speaking to? Because the audience, is it just us, like a vague reader? Is it somebody more specific? Are they talking to a very specific audience? And a great way to find about that is the author. Do you know the author? If you don't, do some research. What period of time was this author around in writing this piece? A lot of times what is happening in the world during that time will have a lot of reflection in literature and in poetry, especially in poetry, and in those emotions and feelings, and a lot of people have used that throughout history. So getting those basic those basic pieces. You're finding the character, you're finding the literal meaning, you're finding where is this taking place, and then kind of use that as to, well, what structure did they use and why did they use it? So the overall poem itself and what makes it a poem. So what kind of poem is it? Is it a haiku? Is it a sonnet? Is it a limerick? Does it have a rhyme to it, a specific rhyme? Does it have no rhyme at all? Are there any shifts in the story? Does the mood drastically change at any point? That's going to be huge, especially when it comes to the next step of the tone. That's what we're going to go on to. And the tone and the imagery. So what is difficult to understand? Because was it difficult to understand? Was it easy to understand? Are there any words that you don't know? Look those up. See what those mean. And that'll give you a lot of clues into what the mood is. A lot of times for a lot of poems, there will be a specific shift in the story where it goes from a very soft to very harsh or very, very dramatic and dark to very light and happy. A great example for that is the poem the poem Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost, the guy I used earlier. And it says, excerpt from it says, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep." So what I really like about that, this is a great example for tone. And the very first line, "the lovely, dark and deep," those are almost romantic words. They're very light. They're very they describe something beautiful and something mysterious. And then it gets a little bit darker. And then he repeats that line, "in miles to go before I sleep." And that repetition is going to give us that reader, and it's going to make us, the reader, feel the narrator's longing for rest, along with his resigned determination to finish what he started. And that's going to have a great thing. And so go through and point out, what's that figurative language? Do you see any metaphors? Do you see any similes? And then try to figure them out and write that on the side or compile them together. And taking all of that information that we've learned and that we've written down throughout this whole poem is, we're going to take that, and that's our analysis, and we're going to compile that into a thesis. And the best way that I've found, and that others have shown is a great way to do that, is to start with a sentence that just states the meaning. What did you find in that poem? And then back that up with some examples. Be like, well, they used this figurative language, and this is what that says to the audience. And you really use the evidence of the poem in your analysis of it to back up your statement. And this all may sound like a lot right now, and it sounds like it's a lot of steps to go through, but now if you go on to that next video, I'm going to be analyzing a piece of poetry, and you're going to have your worksheet too, and so right alongside me, we're just going to go through it. You're going to go through it together with me, and I'll really show you that you can totally do this, and that it can actually be really fun and really expand your thinking. So please go on to your next video.